Next, all the way from Seattle, we'll welcome blogger and activist, Matthias Robertson.
Hi. Welcome. Will you all pray with me? May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable and pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our God. So on my flight over here, I was still racking my brain for what I was going to talk about. I had an idea. I could go the theological route and talk about my 3.5-year journey studying scripture and every single book I could get my hands on about every topic on faith and sexuality from every angle I could find. I could talk about the theological tipping point for me, diving into a study of what sin is and what it took to hold up my non-LGBT affirming theology to my concepts of sin. But that didn't feel quite right to me. I was leaning towards the psychological route, sharing the research that I've been doing as a graduate student at the Seattle School of Theology and Psychology. I was going to talk about attachment theory. It's one of the most well-documented and researched theories in all of psychology. The idea that the relationship that we have with our parents in our very early years of life dictates the way that we interact with people in our adult lives, and those are called attachment styles. A large percentage of the world's population have insecure attachment styles, and one of the primary goals of the therapeutic space is to move people from insecure attachment to an earned secure attachment. In my work at the Seattle School, I've wondered if it's possible to move the other direction. If someone, let's say a teenager who has a secure attachment to his parents and experiences a dramatic shift with his relationship with his parents, if that might change his attachment style. Let's say that kid walks downstairs one morning and tells his parents that he's gay, and his parents respond negatively, and they continue to respond negatively because of their faith. Might that shift his attachment style from secure to insecure? And the answer is yes. This happens over and over again in a lot of non-LGBT Christian homes, and it wreaks havoc on our lives, on people's lives, and on people's future ability to connect with people. And I was going to talk about that and share stories and experiences that didn't quite feel right to me either. So as I was waiting for my flight to take off, breathing heavily after running through the Seattle airport because the security line was longer than I expected, I picked up the book I've been slowly working through over the last few months, Rising Strong by vulnerability and shame researcher Brandan. In chapter 6, she tells a story of a particularly frustrating experience with a person that left her fuming for days. As she was venting to her therapist asked her, "Brandan, do you believe that people are doing the best that they can?" The question made her really angry, and it made me pause. Do you believe that people are doing the best that they can? And it made me wonder, do I believe that people are doing the best they can? Here I am flying to Denver to talk to a crowd where many people believe that I am living my life in a perpetual state of sin. I'm walking into a conversation where I am perceived as being deceived, biased, and blinded by my sexual orientation, where every word I say is taken with a grain of salt and a healthy amount of suspicion. And I ask myself, do I believe that these people, you people, each of you who are sitting in this church on a Saturday afternoon, listening to the stories of LGBT Christians, do I believe that you are doing the best that you can? And I thought about that for a moment, and my answer was pretty easy. I mean, you're all here. Yes, I would imagine that most of you are doing the best that you can, regardless of where you are in your theological spectrum. But then another thought entered my head. What about everyone else back here? What about the speakers? What about people who have written books on how to respond to me with compassion and love without affirming my inherent lifestyle choices? What about all of the people who planned Q, a conference that has been critiqued over and over and over again for their oppressive and silencing approaches to LGBT people? Are they doing the best that they can? The moment that question entered my head, my defenses went up. No, they're not doing the best that they can. These people follow LGBT Christians on Twitter, they engage with us often, and yet they still insist on promoting deeply harmful approaches to theology as a way to deal with the sexuality and gender problem. Are they doing the best that they can? And as almost as quickly as my defensive voices, the voices that speak absolute certainty and absolute skepticism, entered my head, another voice quietly leaped up. But what if they are? What if they are genuinely trying to approach me with love? What if they are doing the best that they can in order to hold what they believe about Scripture and what it says about gender and sexuality and engage with me? What if they are doing the best that they can? And I kind of hate that. Because every part of me wants to stand on the stage and scream out that they're not doing it well. I want to stop around and deliver a powerful proclamation that will convince you without question that things absolutely must change in our churches. But I can't do that. Because I know no matter what I say, no matter how many statistics I cite or different theological approaches I offer, I cannot convince any of you to change your minds. It doesn't work that way. But what I can do is stand here and quietly ask you all a question. The question that has been bothering me because it disarms me and shows me who I am. You are all about to hear stories and messages from 9 of my LGBT siblings. You're about to hear our lives trying to hold together two worlds that were told over and over and cannot mix. And as I prayed over this talk and tried to figure out what I wanted to say, all I was left with is the question that Bernie's therapist asked her. And I want to ask it to you. Do you believe that people are doing the best that they can? Do you believe that we are doing the best that we can? Do you believe that transgender, bisexual, lesbian, and gay people who are stubbornly clinging to our faith in Jesus are doing our absolute best to live our lives as followers of Christ? If you feel your defenses rising, those voices of absolute certainty and absolute skepticism, of course they're not. I ask you to wonder along with me, what if we are? A couple of years ago, I wrote a blog post for a big faith publication that was met with a flurry of negative responses, mostly from people who disagreed with me. Often happens. One person in particular started attacking me with vengeance. This woman, a mom that was part of the homeschooling group that I was a part of growing up, used everything she could to take me down. And I sat there, reading her comments and was stunned. I didn't know how to respond. I couldn't decide between going full force back at her or curling up in a ball and crying. And as person after person read the comments and reached out saying to me that I should probably set up some boundaries, I fought with the bitterness that was gripping my heart. This wasn't the first time this woman had interacted with me, and I had stuffed down so much hurt in order to maintain a civil tone. That afternoon or the next day, I can't quite remember, I talked to my mom on the phone and I told her what was going on. My parents were missionaries in Romania at the time, they didn't have reliable internet. My mom sighed and paused. I could tell that she was struggling with her mama bear emotions wanting to rage. Then she said, "You know, Matt, sometimes we just have to trust that God is working in their lives too." And I felt something soften within me. And I wondered, do I believe that God is working in this man's life? Well... Okay then, how about, can I choose to trust that God is working in your life? Can I choose to trust that the very one who is the author and finisher of my faith is authoring and finishing her faith? When I'm looking at someone who is genuinely making me wonder how in the world they can call themselves a Christian, and trust that maybe, just maybe, the Spirit is working there too. Can I trust that she was doing the best she could? As Brandan and Brown began to do research around this, wondering who in the world actually believes that other people are doing the best that they can, she found that those who hold this belief about others do not discount the fact that there is still room for each of us to grow. In fact, it can sometimes even make us more aware of where growth needs to take place. This belief about people, that people are doing the best that they can, is not a position of cynicism or even compassion. It's not, oh, look at them, they're doing the best that they can. It's a choice to look at the people around us, the people that we ardently disagree with, the people that we find infuriating, and see them as people who are living life the best way that they know how. It's not an excuse, it's not a glossing over, but it is a position of grace. And this is where I think a distinction needs to be drawn. Because there's a difference between seeing people as love projects and believing that people are doing the best that they can. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote a blog post that was picked up by HuffPost Religion, and I opened my browser to find that editors had chosen to feature it at the top of the site. In big, bold letters were my words screaming out to the vast expanses of the internet, "I don't want your unconditional love." In it, I described the all too common occurrence of being invited to coffee by someone who wants to get to know me, but pulls a bait and switch. I ask, why are you trying to get to know me? Do you truly want to know me, or do you just want to change me? When you go home and talk about me to your friends, am I an example of how you are reaching out to a specific group of people? Are you impacted by me at all? Or are you searching my words for reinforcement of your pre-established thoughts about the state of my soul? Are you willing to learn from me? Are you willing to loosen your grip on the truth that you are so desperately holding on to? Are you willing to laugh with me, celebrate with me, cry with me? Are you willing to put your ideas about me on the shelf and embrace me? Or will we just sip coffee with our tense shoulders? Here's the distinction. When I'm a project, when I am someone to be loved, I feel like you are approaching me from a position of superiority. As if you were saying, I don't agree with you, you're doing it wrong, but I'm going to do my best to love you anyway. This position looks down on me and says, we all have a sin problem, even me. This other position of believing the best about me looks at me and wonders, how is God working in his life? It places us in areas where we can learn from each other. It offers genuine engagement and genuine curiosity. The philosopher Martin Buber calls this position an opportunity for an I-thou encounter instead of an I-it. We see each other as fellow people instead of objects to be used. This doesn't discount sin, it doesn't ignore sin, but it does stop us from seeing each other as sin-infected beings. Instead, infested, not infected. Instead, it helps us look at each other as people who are beautifully and wonderfully made. We are able to look at each other and see beloved children of God. I'm not a person that needs to be approached with the qualification of someone to be loved. I am a person. I don't want your unconditional love because honestly, you can't give me unconditional love. Sure, you can choose to love me, but loving me is not inviting me out for coffee so you can hear a little bit about my life and then open your Bible and tell me how long I am. What I do want is you to walk along with me, to offer me the benefit of the doubt, to trust that God is doing a great work in my life, no matter how wrong you think I am. Because here's something that I know to be true. I'm doing the best that I can to walk this path as a gay man who believes that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I'm doing the best that I can to hold my life to the authority of Scripture, to form my life around what Scripture says instead of forming Scripture around my life. I am following Jesus in the best way that I know how. My path may look different than how some may think it should. My path may look different than what some might think the Bible says. But in the next couple of hours, will you sit with me and wonder? Will you look around this room and up on this stage with a sense of awe and look for the common thread of Christ in each of us? Will you ask along with me, what if we're all doing the best that we can? What if God is working in these ways too? And as we wonder together, may we look at our own selves and begin to reflect on where we might need to grow. May we listen with open ears and open hearts. May grace and peace be with us on this journey. Thank you.